Hello and welcome to the Flat Show. If you haven't clocked by now, names are not really my strong point. And anyway, today I'm joined by James from the Northern Gamblers. How are you doing, James?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I obviously watched your show with the Jump Show and give you a message to say, well, where's Wednesday Flat Show coming? And he said when I get in touch with you, so I thought yes, let's do it. It'll be a good laugh.
Absolutely. I've been itching to sit down and chat about the flat with people because unfortunately Twitter sort of turns derelict when the flat comes out. No one's on it. But hopefully we're here to spice up the timeline anyway. So the plan for today is effectively to look at the Epsom Derby meeting. We'll start off with the Coronation Cup, then we'll go to the Oaks, Princess Elizabeth Stakes, Diomed Stakes, and the Derby. And then we'll fill in the handicaps if we do have the fancies. And then, of course, we'll give you a nap of the meeting as well. I'm actually heading to Epsom on the Saturday. So hopefully with the naps, we can either line my pockets going into the Saturday or give me something to cheer about on the day. We'll start off with the Coronation Cup. It's a small field. It is only 6 runners, but I think it's actually a pretty good field. We have last year's winner, Pile Driver. We have Hookham in there as well. But I wanted to start with Manobo, and I'm going to need you to cast your memory back to about March time when he broke the track record at Dubai. And you tweeted something along the lines of, this horse just beat a lot of handicappers whilst getting weight. You didn't really believe the hype that everyone else did. What do you think his chances are in a race like this?
Yeah, I mean, that race in Maidan, visually, obviously, he did look impressive, but he was getting weight and he did beat a bunch of handicappers. Do you know what I mean? East Asia was in second. And do you know what I mean? That's a she, isn't it? Is that a she? Anyway, 7-year-old, not really up to much, 66 to 1 in second, rated 90. So I just thought it was best to err on the side of caution. Although I'm looking at the form now of that race, actually Enemy was in 4th. So maybe it wasn't as bad as first I thought. But yeah, I think it's hard to assess, isn't he, Manobo? The race that he ran, the 2 mile race, the Group 2 in Maidan, he pulled like an absolute train for the majority of the journey. So for him to stay on for those 2 miles and only just not get up to the Japanese horse was pretty impressive. And I actually think this drop in trip should help him settle a bit. I think he's too short a price because you know, I mean, there's questions to be answered there. And what price is it, like 5 to 2 or something?
It's 5 to 2 best price at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, it's not my kind of price, and definitely not when there's big enough question marks for me. So yeah.
So who is the pick then if he's not a big enough price? Because I mean, I'm looking at it myself and I'm thinking last year's winner, Pile Driver, his excuses last time out as well. 2 to 1 seems about the right sort of price. But who is your selection for this?
Yeah, I mean, you actually said that you thought it was quite a good race. I actually think it's pretty terrible.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
I mean, considering there's 250k up for grabs, it's probably not the best. But I mean, it's very competitive.
Yeah, I just thought the Coronation Cup, obviously, mile and a half Group 1. You normally get some really nice winners of this. You normally get bigger fields as well. I thought High Definition got a really good ride from Ryan Moore last time out. I don't think he's suddenly just now improved and is a Group 1 horse. So I didn't really fancy him. Pavlyuchenko's not good enough. Living Legend stole the race last time out at Newmarket against Yabir. But I think them two will set up a decent pace at least. So hopefully we should get a properly run race. I agree with you on Pile Driver, to be honest. Obviously, he won this race last year, so we know he handles Epsom. He was pretty unlucky out in Maidan. He got stuck behind the eventual winner at a key point, and Frankie had to switch him out. So that wasn't ideal, but he finished well. And he beat Hookham that day, and he didn't beat him by miles, but I thought with what happened to Pile Driver, I thought he had the beating of him. And just obviously having that course form and winning the race last year, I mean, again, it's not my kind of price. Is he 2 to 1?
He is 2 to 1 favourite, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably fair enough, isn't it? Yeah, I do think he's the most likely winner, and he would be the selection. But again, I wouldn't be betting it myself. So.
I would like to give a small note for Hookham, because
Mm.
we've alluded to it a little bit, that there's going to be a lot of pace on here. Pile Driver does tend to race forward. Living Legend goes forward. High Definition obviously produced a career best last time whilst leading. You're going to imagine that Manobo is going to put his standard to good use and go from the front as well. Hookham is going to sit just off him, and if there is a pace collapse, you may be there to capitalize on it. For all, I did hear rumors that this was just going to be a prep run to something bigger. That was on Odds Checker. I don't know why they would use a Coronation Cup as a prep run. But yeah, maybe something down the line for Hookham. Nothing really confident from me though, but it looks like 2 votes for Pile Driver. We'll move on to the Oaks, the big race on Friday. 9 of the last 10 renewals have been won by either John Gosden or Aidan O'Brien, so it is unsurprising to see that the first 4 on the market are shared equally between the 2 of them. The race basically revolves around Emily Upjohn. Do you have any concerns about her? I know you're talking a lot about price here. 5 to 4 is obviously not your sort of price. So is there any reason to want to take her on?
I think there is. Obviously, delving into this race in a bit more detail to come on the pod tonight. Originally, I didn't actually think it was that strong a race, but you delve into some of. I really like my pedigrees, and I base a lot of my betting around pedigrees. And you look through some of these pedigrees, and they are really well bred. Emily Upjohn, actually, the dam is probably one of the weaker ones, considering there's horses out of Oaks winners, there's Group 1, Group 2 winners. She's, I think her dam was Hidden Brief. She was highest rated 95, so fine. But on a pedigree basis, I would definitely take her on. On a form basis, you can argue, is her form that much stronger than some of the other winners? I'm not sure it's 5 to 4 or even evens or whatever price she is.
It's the visual impression. That's what's drawing this price in, because visually she's been so impressive. And also, if you look back at that last run, she had absolutely no right to pull away from the field the way she did after pulling that hard.
No, I don't think she pulled as hard as people would like to think. She's the rightful favourite, but at 5 to 4, I'd definitely be taking her on, and I taking her on.
Who are you going to take her on with then?
I really like. I mean, it's not too original. It's the next one down in the betting, but I really like Nashwa. I thought she looked extremely good last time out at Newbury. I had a little fun sectional stat for you here. So in her race, if you compared it with the Lock-in Stakes, when Emily Upjohn, Nashwa was quickening in her 8th furlong, she recorded a sectional of 10.84, which was quicker than any sectional that Baid put up in the Lock-in. Now,
it's a good one, despite being a deceiving one, given that Jim Crowley didn't have to touch the saddle.
Well, Holly Doyle didn't move on Nashwa, really.
Mm.
I mean, it's slightly deceiving, but and obviously the fillies race was run a little bit slow to start with. But it just obviously what it shows is she's got an extreme turn of foot, and I've seen a lot of people saying that she might be too quick and she might not stay the difference, which is fair enough. I actually like the pedigree. She's obviously by Frankel. She's a half sister to Luganini, who stayed 12 furlongs, and he was by Zoffany. So you could argue that Frankel more of a stamina influence there. So yeah, and we haven't actually seen this horse on softish ground yet, but Luganini absolutely loved soft ground. Now, obviously, it's going to dry up a little bit, but they love over water in Epsom. So if they do get any kind of shower, it's good to soft at the moment, isn't it? So that could bring out improvement in her. And if she does, I think if she does stay the 12 furlongs, I think she could be an absolute monster. I think she's more exciting than Emily Upjohn, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of people sort of push that agenda that Nashua is the more exciting of the two, and it is interesting that you bring up this the soft ground element, because I'm just looking back now. Admittedly, it was a debut run, or could have been a debut run at Doncaster. She was pulled out on soft ground, so obviously John Gosden thinks that she wants quicker ground. So you'd have no concerns about that at all. What was that? Sorry.
What does John Gosden know? Come on.
Fair enough. Yeah. I was going to say, when you're directing Emirati Hero, that's the real challenge. All right, I didn't have a strong opinion on this. I would like to say that I'd love to see Emily Upjohn win, just because I think racing needs stars. A very generic comment, but I'd like to see Emily Upjohn pull lengths clear of them. What can we just quickly touch on Tuesday? Lots have been talked about her. She has brilliant form, obviously coming in from the Guineas. She resembles for me a little bit like Fleeting a couple of years ago, where she's going to sit and be the bridesmaid quite often. What do you make of her?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's well known she's the full sister of Minding, and obviously Minding did win the Oaks after she won the Guineas. She did win a terrible Oaks though, and she probably wasn't best over that trip. So I think that's a question mark. She's quite a late fall, isn't she? I think she's literally only just turned 3.
I think today.
No, 3rd of June. So actually on the day of the Oaks.
Oh, mad. Okay.
So she's, you know what I mean? She should be the least kind of developed in terms of age of all these. I think that the form is obviously good. It's fine, but I'm just not getting the vibes from her that she's now going to suddenly sprout wings over a mile and a half. If anything, out of the Ballydoyle contingent, Concert Hall probably looks the strongest there. She's out of an Oaks winner, although I don't really like the Debarwi angle in kind of, well, especially not derbies, but Oaks as well. I think the really interesting one from Ballydoyle, and it's like 100 to 1, so is the Algarve.
Okay, yeah.
Unbelievable pedigree. Out of Imagine, obviously won the Oaks. She's a half sister to Horatio Nelson, Red Rock Canyon, Viscount Nelson, Van Gogh, all top class horses. Obviously, she's by American Pharaoh, which is obviously he's a bit of a new stallion. Obviously, he has more runners in America. But I mean, that's a top-notch pedigree, and she was well beaten by Emily Upjohn at York. That was the first run of the season, and she could quite easily improve for Step Up and Trip. And I was thinking she might be a pace angle as well. And sometimes around Epsom, it's hard to peg them back. I just thought she was a crazy price, to be honest.
What did you say that was? Sorry, 100 to 1.
I think she's 100 to 1 in places, yeah.
Oh, mad. There we go. I have to have a few quid on that for sure.
It's just purely on pedigree. Like she's got one of the best pedigrees in the race, no doubt. And that's just a silly price, really. It's obviously on form. She was way behind Emily Upjohn. You would think she couldn't turn that round, but these are lightly raced horses. You know what I mean? They can improve £10 in a run. Like it's not feasible, and that's just a stupid price. But yeah, there's loads of nice bred fillies in this race. Even I quite liked With the Moonlight as well. Another Frankel. I quite like the Frankel angle with the Oaks. Obviously, Anna Perna won it. She was by Frankel. Was it 2 years ago when she won it?
It was 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. The only question mark I'd have about With the Moonlight is she's a full sister to Dream Castle, who was best over kind of a mile and 9 furlongs. And she's out of a Group 2 winning 5 or 6 furlong horse, so stamina would be a bit of a question mark. But she was impressive enough in the Pretty Polly. So I do think there's a bit of depth to this race. More than in recent years. I think the Oaks has been a bit poor in the last few years, but yeah, I think it's definitely going to be interesting. But I will stick with Nashua.
Nashua, okay.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the handicaps. I've plucked out a few that I quite like. Feel free to fill in wherever you see necessary. The first one is on the opening race of day one, and that's the Woodcote handicap. If you go and watch back the last 5 renewals, the race gets run exactly the same. Fairly low draw. They'll come out, grab the rail, and they tend to go on and win. The exception to that rule is in 2019 when Pinatubo came from off the pace. I think it's easy to forget how fantastic he was as a 2-year-old. And he did only beat O Purple Rain, who's now trained by Gordon Elliott and is rated in the 70s. So it's unsurprising that he was able to pick him up. I'd like to give a small mention for Keep Bidding. Just a tracker horse of mine. I stuck her in there after her only run. She looked fairly clueless, stayed on really well. So I think she'll enjoy the step up in trip. If the ground does come up soft, that wouldn't be an issue. And because she didn't win, and this is a conditional race, she's getting loads of weight from the main protagonist. I think I looked on Bet365. She was 13-2 with 4 places. And I'd give her a good little mention. And the other one is Oh, This Is Us. I tipped him up last time out of Chester. Basically, he has really good form or on tracks around bends. He's dropped to a really low mark. Now it's rated 92. Obviously, last year he won the Diomed Stakes at this meeting. Things didn't go right for him in simple terms. They crawled along, and when they quickened, he just got outpaced, stayed on like a train. If you knew nothing about him, if you didn't know he was a 9-year-old on the decline, you'd look at that last run and think he's crying out for a step up in trip, and he was quite eye-catching. I wouldn't at all be surprised if he was to run a massive race here. In the same race you also have last year's winner, Corazon Espinado, obviously saves all his best efforts for Epsom. I had a little look. He's ran there 10 times. He's won 4 and finished second 3 times. He is £1 higher than last year, and he's drawn right out in the car parks, which is a massive negative. But yeah, Oh, This Is Us in the 235 for me. Don't know if you wanted to call me out on any of those ones at all.
Well, I think Oh, This Is Us is out in the car park as well, isn't he? He's in 14.
But he's going to be held up.
Yeah.
Corazon Espinado is going to want to take the lead, is how I looked at that.
Yeah, there should be a bit of pace on here. I haven't had a chance to go in depth in this race, but I have been keeping an eye on Carlos Magnus. He was second at Newmarket last time out behind Legend of Dubai, who looks, well, he's going to be running the Hunt Company. He's probably going to be second favourite or something. But Carlos Magnus pulled 7 lengths clear of Eileen Dubb. Eileen Dubb's come out and won 2 very competitive mile races on the Sunday series. So yeah, he could be interesting. The Andrew Balding horse, and he's probably a pace angle. Yeah, and you do tend to be one of the on the pace at Epsom. But as I said, I haven't really been. Oh, This Is Us is running some great races, isn't he, for his age? To be fair, yeah, I sort of was half tempted to back him at Chester last time out, but I didn't in the end. But
you saw I tipped it and went, oof, we'll stay clear of that one then, won't we? Yeah.
What did you tip the week before? I think I tipped it as well.
Udalali.
Udalali. Oh,
done on the nose, mate. Story of my life.
Right in the middle of my horrendous run, and I was just like, this is never going to end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I mean, that's a tough race. That one, 16 runners. That Fireworks has always had a huge reputation at William Haggis's, but just has not done it on track. So interesting to see how that goes. But yeah.
We'll move on to Saturday's action now. I think it's worth noting at this point, we don't have full declarations or the draws, which is obviously going to make this very interesting. We'll start with the Princess Elizabeth Stakes. The market predicts that both Bashkirova and Potapova will be able to reverse the form with Mrs. Fitzherbert and Roman Myths respectively. Do you share that view?
I'm going to be honest with you. Filly's listed group races are not my cup of tea at all. I thought Oscala was interesting, but she's running the day before, isn't she?
She is. She's quite a short price. I was hoping for something a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I think I'd have preferred her in this race. It's probably a bit easier. Yeah, I'm not even going to pretend I've got a clue, to be fair.
Absolutely.
I know everything.
Absolutely fine. I also didn't have an especially strong opinion on it. I did chuck Potapova in my tracker after her last run, where she just stayed on and on and on. I think the extra half a furlong will suit, and providing the ground dries up a little bit, I think she could go well, but not a strong opinion. I'm happy to move on to the Diomed Stakes. I think this is a bang average race myself. I don't know if you have a different opinion. I don't want to spend too long on it, so we can spend a little bit more time on the Derby. Purely a price thing though, on what they've achieved, I don't think there's actually much between Mutasabek and Modern News, or at least there's not as much as the market's predicting at this point, which is evens and 7-2. So I'd give a positive mention to Mutasabek, especially if the rain did come. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, totally agree with everything you said there. It's not the greatest race, and I thought the price discrepancy between Modern News and Mutasabek was probably wrong. Mutasabek really unlucky last time out in the Group 2 mile race at Sandown. Really should have won, to be honest. Modern News really good in the Spring Cup. Obviously winning that of top rate, and was really impressive last time out. But I always think Windsor's a little bit dodgy, and he beat Tempest easily enough, but he should be beating him easily enough, really, shouldn't he? So yeah, I would also play Mutasabek in that race. I don't think the rest are up to much. Magellan really needs to bounce back. He was poor last time out, wasn't he?
That was a really weird run, because I saw Magellan as this horse who was very one-dimensional, just had to go from the front. But they tried to hold her up, and she was just it was just too keen. So maybe if they stride on over this shorter trip, as we've spoken about a couple of times at Epsom, if you can get caught on the front end, like you can pull a little bit away from them. But yeah, no, Mutasabek for me in this. We'll move on to the Derby, because this is obviously the main race. We'll start with top of the market, the big talking horse, the gamble, the owner, the trainer. There's a lot of pressure on this horse's shoulders at this point. Desert Crown, justifiably 7-4 favourite for you?
Yeah, I think so. I really like this horse. Me and Tom did a podcast earlier in the year, and I said about this horse, but what he did at Nottingham on debut was really impressive. Didn't anticipate him being 7-4 favourite for the Derby at that point. And obviously Luxembourg came out, and I don't think it's the strongest race, but we'll go into that. But yeah, I mean, the way he won the Dante on only his second start, and people are trying to crab it, but Jesus Christ, it's his second start. Do you know what I mean? He might not have even been 100% fit, and he won it easily enough. I think he's definitely the right favourite.
Stone Age is next in the market. A proper headbanger of a 2-year-old. He was just bumping into like some good horses, but he was bumping into every horse. I can't quite put my finger on why I don't fancy him. Maybe it's obviously the memory of him being a frustrating 2-year-old. I just can't bring myself to back him yet. What do you make of him?
No, I agree. I've not really warmed to him either. Plenty of runs at 2, didn't he? Never got his head in front, comes out and wins a maiden by 9 lengths, which he's entitled to do with his rating. And then he comes out and wins well, but makes all. I haven't looked at the sectionals, but I'm guessing they'll probably give him a bit of an easy lead. And the form isn't much to write home about, really, is it? It was. I thought it was a bit crazy that how short he went for the Derby before Desert Crown won the Dante. Very similar vibes to what was that? Bolshoi Ballet, was it?
Bolshoi Ballet, yeah, went over to America after that.
Yeah, I'm getting similar vibes. I'm not really not massive fan of Stone Age. I've got actually there's quite like a key trend in the Derby, whereas you want your dam to have had black type or be unraced, weirdly enough. And there's quite a lot of horses in this race that don't have black type. And funnily enough, Desert Crown and Stone Age are 2 that don't have that black type. So on a dam quality, they fail on that, and it's quite a key stat. I think Anthony Van Dyke was the most one in recent history that broke the trend. But if you go back quite far, you do tend to need a dam with a bit of a black type quality. So if you're betting on it based on pedigree and mixing a little bit of form, there is negatives to the 2 of them. Although I do much prefer Desert Crown to Stone Age.
We'll have a look at Nation's Pride. Obviously, he was supplemented for this race following, I believe it was just a nice piece of work, but he did destroy a good field at Newmarket. And you'd imagine he'll get the trip fine, and he looks to be Godolphin's number 1. What do you make of him?
Yeah, I mean, you'd worry that he's never really been good enough on what he's shown them, because he wasn't even in the Derby
exactly
the last stage. Newmarket, small runner fields early in the season sometimes can flatter to deceive. If you remember last year, Mohafef won very easily in a similar race. It might have even been the same race. Yeah, it might have been actually. So yeah, I mean, they obviously they had to supplement him based on that. And when I think their main Derby hope was Walk of Stars, and I think that was quite clear.
Wait,
So
I thought it was New London. Well, at least they thought New London was going to be a Derby horse at one point.
I remember before, just around the season starting, I remember Walk of Stars going up a massive sea of blue on Oddschecker before anything had even ran. So I think they thought he might have been working the house down. But yeah, New London as well. But obviously he was not very good at Chester, was he?
He was not good at Chester, no.
No, I think Nation. What price is Nation's Pride?
8-1 best price.
8-1. I thought it was a bit shorter than that.
I've got 7s on Betfair, so 7 to 8-1 in that range.
Yeah, I would worry that he really liked the quick ground at Newmarket as well. I mean, if the ground at Epsom should be quickening up because the weather's forecast to be okay. But I just don't trust the clerk really. He'd probably be putting water on it on the Friday night.
It's a podcast for another day, really, isn't it? The overwatering of these tracks. We haven't got all evening.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not for me, Nation's Pride.
So we haven't discounted the front three because obviously we both respect Desert Crown, but looking at the field, where's your money going?
To me, as I said, I don't actually think it's that strong a race when you dive into it. And Eden's just come out as well, making it even weaker. Although I think he was a doubtful stay, to be honest. It's not my kind of price, but I really think Desert Crown could be the one horse could be a star. And I don't see it with any of the others. I mean, if it did somehow turn up to be really soft ground, I think changing the guard would probably potentially outstay them all. He looks like a big old boat to me.
Yeah.
That'll love ground. Pispadale, obviously lightly raced, won a Group 3 last time. Frankie's on. He'll be attracting support. But other than that, I'm really struggling to get excited by one apart from Desert Crown, and it's boring. He's a favourite, but I think he's the most likely winner.
And in 24 hours' time, we could just know our fate because he's just drawn, not in the right place.
But yeah, you'd need to wait for the draw. You don't want one, obviously, or two. But I was going through this race and I thought it was a good derby, but then I delved into it and I thought I'm not actually sure it's that good. So yeah, Desert Crown is the one.
I noted down changing of the guard there, mainly for if it did rain. But I really did like his win at Chester for all. The second looked clueless. He's a proper stayer. He did handle Chester very well. And I'd imagine, for me, I'm looking for a horse that's going to give me a good run for my money in a race like this, especially because I found it so difficult to find it. I think changing the guard will be there or thereabouts. I did have one last horse I wanted to note for this race, and I'm sure you're going to pour cold water on it. Sonny Liston for Charlie Hills. He's got a lot of work to do to be competing with the ones at the head of the market. But that Fielden race is one that I noted that was looking to start working out quite well. Obviously, Eden ran a really good race in the Guineas, and he ran really well at Chester, catching the eye, went very wide against Star of India, who did get the first run. He's about 40-1. It wouldn't be we've seen massive upsets sort of come into the places, and I think Sonny Liston could be one of those horses to improve into a place.
Yeah, I'm not going to knock you for putting up a 41 shot. If you look at his siblings, the dam's had some decent progeny. She had Dame Malliot, who was what was she, a Group 2 winner?
She was, yeah.
She was a second in the group. Yeah. So she was decent enough. So you would think the step up and trip could be a nice angle with him. Obviously, Galileo Mare he's out of. Lawman wouldn't be my first pick for sire in a derby, but yeah,
But I feel like it's a race because there is so many unknowns. I mean, I think there's a stat that's been floating around. There's not a single Group 1 winner in this race. And there's so many horses who have very little race experience as well that we might see a rapid improver. I mean, that rapid improver might be Desert Crown. Who knows? He might improve another £5. But yeah, so I'll give you 2 bets. I'll give you an each way bet and a win bet. Who would you go for this race?
Okay. Well, I won at a price. I'll roll in with you with changing the guard. I do think that's probably a decent enough price to give you, as you say, give you a good run for your money. Did he win the Chester Vase?
He did win he did.
The 12 furlong race at Chester, and I remember Wings of Eagles winning that race and then going on the Derby recently, and he strikes me as a similar boaty type. But I'll go for a bit of a wild one for my way. West Wind Blows for Simon and Ed Crisford, unbeaten, pretty impressive last time out of a French Oaks winner, I think. So pretty nice pedigree, unbeaten, was still very raw. Could still be plenty of improvement in him. But win bets, I've got to go Desert Crown. He's the only one that I think could be a proper horse.
I didn't get the chance to look at any Saturday handicaps, and I'm assuming you didn't either, judging by our conversation earlier.
No, I'll just wait. I'll wait for Dex for that.
Absolutely fine. So the last thing we've got to do is give me a winning double to head into Epsom with. I'm a sucker for punishment. So my selection will be coming on Friday in the 2:35, and that horse is Oh This Is Us for the reasons given earlier. And what about yourself?
On the Friday in the 5:45, if I haven't got money on Salim and he wins, I might implode. So
yeah. Me and you very much in the same boat with him in the Lincoln. And then I don't know if you followed him up at Newbury as well. I did, like a mug.
I followed him up at Newbury and at Newmarket.
Oh.
Newmarket was worse.
Yeah, no, the Newmarket one, that was bad because I thought he had that race sewn up.
He traded at 1.06.
So you had a strong word for Salim at the start of the season, right? Or you had a word that he was going well?
I had picked him out. I love the Lincoln because we don't get any flat racing for ages. It's the first big handicap back. You can look at it for 2 months. It's great. And I picked him out as the one. He's a nice price. I liked his profile, I liked his pedigree, I liked everything about him. So I was backing him. And then I put it in my tipping group. And one of the lads in the tipping group knows some yards, and he got back to me and said, "Oh, he's been working like a rocket." So that obviously gave me more confidence. And the Lincoln was a bit of a sickener, to be fair.
Yes, well, he's drawn in 12. There's 17 runners. I imagine he's going to want to race quite forward. Got a useful enough £5 claimer on as well. So officially running off 95.
Yeah, and there doesn't look to be much pace on, so I could see him getting to the front and hope he holds on. To be fair, even by Shine So Bright, who'd come back to form, and just Newmarket, good to firm ground, 7 furlongs, like Shine So Bright that's his optimum. Like, it's tough to beat him over those with those race conditions. So hopefully he's a half decent price.
He's 13-2 second favourite.
That's not bad considering what he's been going off at.
Yeah, I was going to say Shine So Bright also having the £7 claimer on at the time as well. So not only being well handicapped on old form, but obviously with one of the best apprentices around at the moment.
He's bad.
He's mustard. Yeah. All right, that's going to just about wrap up the podcast there. James, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I mean, providing this goes well and the reception receives good, then hopefully we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time for Royal Ascot as well.
Definitely, yeah. Good to finally get on, and Royal Ascot will be a bit more interesting. A few more bigger races to get stuck into. I'm sure it'll be even better.
Beautiful stuff. Anyway, guys, feel free to drop a like and a comment. Let us know if you enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks' time.